Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
I'm Kelly McCormick, the director of Red Labs, the University of Houston Startup Accelerator and Technology Entrepreneurship Program, and I'm joined today by Desiree Worrell-Mosley.
Hello.
And she is the founder and director of Sproutstart Academy, and she's also a former member of the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship. She's an alumni of the program, and I'm going to have her talk a little bit more about her background in life, just to share with you how she got here and how she does it.
Well, how I got here, that's an interesting roller coaster that probably no one wants to get on. First and foremost, I'll say that how I got to where I am and how I'm going to get to where I'm going is through just pure grit, Overcoming obstacles isn't optional, and every day is a challenge for me, and that's how I look at it. I look at every day in the face as a challenge, and I intentionally seek to equip myself with the things that I'm going to need to battle and face that challenge on a daily, because being an entrepreneur is not easy, and the struggles that you face, especially when you embrace risk so much, can definitely put you in a place where there are discouraging moments or days. And so how I got here, the biggest thing would be the humans around me, the people that push me, the people that support me, the people that keep me accountable, and my faith. Those are the two main things, the humans around me and my faith.
Awesome. And so how did you start to become an entrepreneur? How did you get interested in entrepreneurship? How did you fall into this life?
I get that question a lot, and there's no defining moment where, I went to a market and saw something. It's always been who I am. It's always been a part of who I am. And from, the time when I was 4, my mother would tell me I would take all of the groceries out of the refrigerator and put them all over our house and make her purchase them from me, And so I've always been obsessed with the hustle and the bringing value to another person factor. It took a lot for me to truly understand how I was going to bring value and impact this world, but it's always been in my blood. I've lemonade stands, selling candy bars, you name it. I've always had a hustle. And so I feel like I was born this way.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. People always say, you should do the thing that you wanted to do as a kid. And so it seems like you capitalized on that drive that you had when you were a kid. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely, if I think about my mentality as a kid, I always was infatuated with the exchange of value and the exchange of currency and what that does for the two people on the sides of the spectrum. But I never could have imagined the life that I've paved for myself today. If I told my 7-year-old self, you will fail at 4 different businesses before you actually make something profitable. And you will meet an incredible amount of people that will not bring you value and a few people that will bring you value, and you will never let those people out of your life. As a child, you never envision the roller coaster ride that you're going to get on. You kind of see this beeline to success, and this is how I'm going to do it. So thinking to my childhood me, really, I, for years, told myself I was going to medical school. Because at the age of 4, I put a stethoscope around my neck, and my family was like, yay, we're going to embrace this, and pushed me to, go after my dreams. And they never really said, you need to go and pursue a medical career. It just was something that I told them that I was going to do, and I felt obligated to do that. And then one day I realized after the 4th business, my poor husband was like, please go to business school and educate yourself so our money means something. And that was the pivotal point for me when I saw I was still continuing to hustle and create businesses on the side that weren't successful, but still doing that and trying to pursue this medical deal. And I just woke up and said, all right, enough is enough. I'm going to spend more time getting to know thyself and make a life out of what I feel I was gifted to do, instead of living up to what false reality I'd built, false image I had built for myself with other people.
So there were a few things you said in there that I was so interested about and wanted to hear more about. So first, you said that you had four businesses you started. Is that while you were pursuing
Absolutely.
medical?
That's why I was pursuing medical and working for a private school. So I was running businesses with every ounce of free time that I had. I'm a firm believer in you make time for what you want to make time for. And so whenever I even today hear people say, oh, how do you do it all? I don't do it all. That's how I can do what I do, you know? And so we just make time for what we want to make time for. And I remember, running a party planning business, and that didn't work. And then I remember doing a jewelry kiosk in a mall in Colorado, and that didn't work. And I saw my friend with this kiosk next to me who was pulling in a little over $1,000 a day. And I said, you know what, I can do that. And he was selling cell phone cases. So then I went to go open a cell phone store. And then on the way to go drop off a deposit for the cell phone store that I'd opened, I saw the drop-in childcare center. I went back to my parents and I said, all right, I got it. This is what I'm going to do. And they said, stop. Like, at this point, my mom had quit her job to help me. My father had sold one of his cars, and they said, you have to sit still. And I couldn't. It was this itch that I had to scratch. And I entered into a business plan competition using Yahoo email at the time because there was no major Dropbox. And I built my business plan through Yahoo email, just constantly saving it because I knew I could have access to it wherever, and entered into a business plan competition, won first place. And that was the confirmation that I was on the path that God put me on, and I was walking the steps that I was supposed to walk for my life and not for others.
So I would think that a lot of people who had started a business and failed might be discouraged, might not want to go into another venture. And you mentioned earlier the idea of grit and how this has kept you going. How do you think you formed that grit? Because I'm incredibly impressed that you had these 4 businesses previously, and now you didn't let it stop you from running the successful business now. How do you gain that? Do you think it's something you're born with, or something you've been working on, something you learned from other people?
I think that everyone's perspective is their reality, and that you are a compilation of the events and occurrences and experiences that you have been afforded in your life. And through my childhood, there were certain things that made succeeding not optional. I was born into a family where we didn't have a lot of money. I didn't know that we didn't until probably about middle school when I saw girls, with Louis Vuitton scarves on, and I learned what is Chanel, and I realized that, there is a class difference, and I'm on that lower end. And so succeeding was never optional for me. As soon as I could work, I was working. As soon as the people around me could work, they wanted to work too. It was just, I never had the option to not try again. It was just an internal agreement with self. It was never an option. And even today, I can imagine saying, well, this experience has, made me, more comfortable, and I'm good. I don't think I'll ever tap out.
Yeah, I couldn't see you as being the kind of person that would say, okay, now I've reached success. I'm done.
Yeah, there's
Just
always
done.
something, there's always better, for yourself. If you're constantly challenging yourself, there's always ways to improve.
So do you have any current goals of what you're doing to try and improve, or what you're challenging yourself with right now?
The biggest thing that I think is missing in life with people that we're not taught in the educational system is emotional intelligence. And so for me right now, that's huge, because human connection is everything, So often, especially in today's age where everything is being automated and there's systems and processes for everything, when people are becoming optional, it's so important to focus on the power of connection. And when you're connecting with humans, it's messy, and the emotional intelligence needed to navigate that appropriately is something that even I, who love to be around people, I love it. People give me life. It's something that I see that I struggle with at moments, just because it's not always innate. It's not something that we're taught in school. A lot of times, especially in, the business realm of things, you kind of click with who you click with, and, you use your connections to, move around, and it's so necessary, because if that's what you're doing, you don't have the emotional intelligence to deal with people, you fell. And so that's something that I've really on a daily seek to intentionally continue to educate myself, is the power of emotional intelligence and the necessary need to improve my IQ in that area, or EQ.
That's great. That's great. Have you been reading any books or anything, or listening to podcasts?
One of my favorite books is The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. Love, love, love it. I don't have enough sticky notes in that book. I mean, it's like 40,000. Just because it's every line is so meaty, you know? I listen to Oprah's Soul Sunday every day.
That podcast.
And that is just it's something you could do in the car. You know what I mean? It's so easy. A lot of times we'll say, well, I don't have time. Well, no, you didn't make time, you know? And so I make time for Oprah's Soul Sunday, Super Soul Sunday on a daily. There are a couple things in my tool bag that I just refer to throughout time, you know, just over time as I'm dealing with people. And one is they're really big relationship tools. And I feel like a lot of times when we are in a relationship or in a marriage, we'll use these tools solely for those purposes. But I've seen a book called The 5 Love Languages has not only transformed me as a person and truly helps me understand how I love and how to love others around me, but it's something that I can use in my business, you know, with our team, and how do certain people within our team like to be loved, and how do they express love. And so when you understand those things about people, you can better appreciate where they're coming from. And then the Berkman assessment I was introduced to at the Wolf Center, and it is something that I had my husband do. Our team has done it at Sproutstart, and it's just one of those things that, again, you're seeking to intentionally understand who a person is and helping them understand who they are, so that way you all can navigate and one person's not left in the dark.
That's great. I really like that. We do have to take a short break and hear a message from our sponsors, so we'll be right back.
Join the conversation. Bauer College's Working Families Initiative is bridging the gap between industry and academia to create a conversation on how organizations can make the workplace more family-friendly. We're talking about flexibility, maternity and paternity leave, and career transitions. For more information about the Working Families Initiative at Bauer College, including upcoming events, visit bauer.uh.edu/workingfamilies.
On the break, Desiree and I were chatting about a trip that I recently took to Silicon Valley and San Francisco with some students in the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, and we were talking about some people in the program, and actually I mentioned that I was doing this podcast, and we were all talking about how inspirational you are.
Aww.
And how just simply being around you is very inspirational.
Aww.
And I remember I mentioned something.
Simply being around me is crazy. You know, I'm driving people nuts, but I love it.
Well, so I said something like, after we had this conversation, it's kind of an offshoot comment, I said something like, it's so cold in here. And they were like, Desiree, we just wouldn't say that. Just be like, it's such a good day. We're so excited. How could we ever feel anything negative?
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Well, my question is, how do you keep up this kind of energy and inspirational energy about you all daily? Because I think it's something that you can just kind of tell about you as soon as anyone meets you, and it's constant and it never wavers. So I'm very impressed, and I'm curious how you do it, because I find my energy dipping as soon as my coffee wears off.
I think it's a problem my parents had ever since I came out the womb. But really, it's not optional. You know what I mean? It's not optional for me to give energy to bad situations. I always say, don't throw good at bad, you know? And just as though I intentionally pick my battles with my husband, I am like that with life, you know? Is it worth the battle? Is it worth my stress? There are times where I truly have to ground myself and remind myself that everyone is speaking from a place, everyone is coming from a place of their own reality. And so how I envision in my head is a boxing ring. Why would I debate and argue with someone that's, in my mind, a 3-year-old emotional intelligence-wise if I'm 12? I'm not 20, but I'm 12. Why would I fight with a 3-year-old? So just as you wouldn't fight with a toddler, you know? And a lot of that, because your energy is around, it can be so easily depleted when you're around the wrong people. And I continue to have the type of energy I do because I'm really careful about who's in my circle and who I associate myself around, you know? And I've had moments where last year I was two individuals in particular I'm thinking about, women that were so draining to be around. And even for someone like me that's just constantly, yes, 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 go, 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 I saw how it started to affect me just subconsciously, just being in a toxic environment like that. And I started to lose some of that. And then I would go around the people that I needed to be around. They're like, what's wrong with you? You know, you're just not yourself. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, you're just so quiet. You're not your normal self. You know, and it was all because I was around people that were seeking to dim my light in order to make themselves shine brighter. But it doesn't work that way. Dimming someone else's light around you doesn't make you shine brighter. And so my energy comes from the people that I associate with and the people that I follow and my, again, just showing up daily, you know, and not being optional, because my peace is mine. You know, my happiness is mine. I am responsible and accountable for my own happiness. So if my energy and happiness is down, I better be the one to do something to get it back up, you know, and not depending upon other people to do that for me. So that's where it comes from. It's the people thing. Like, I know I keep repeating that, but it's the human factor of life.
People are important. They're definitely important.
They're everything.
I actually have two questions as a follow-up to that. So I completely agree. I think people are so important. But I think that also sometimes we get stuck with people that we can't choose, and that
family, yes.
And so sometimes you're stuck with people that have the negative energy, and I'm curious how you navigate that. How do you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's us all, right? Family, coworkers, you know, whatever environment you're in, you're not always responsible for placing those people there, and you're not always able to remove those people physically. But there are three things, and it's nourishing yourself mentally, spiritually, and physically. So just as though you would exercise physically to get in shape, you have to make sure that you're keeping your cup full and exercising mentally and spiritually. And so for me, if I am doing the other two, not just the physical part of it, then I'm equipped to battle. I'm equipped to understand who I get in the ring with and who I don't. I understand who I can allow within my peace bubble, if you will, and who's not allowed, you know? And so that when you're completely full in that spiritual mental area and you've equipped yourself with the knowledge and the emotional intelligence on your part, is that you won't go into battle with people that are not necessary to battle with, you know?
Right. So also another question I have is how do you find the right people? So how do you find those right mentors and the people that are going to be supportive? And is it just a matter of matching energy, or do you have places you look for specific people, or do you network to meet the kind of people that would be best fits for you?
So for me, it happens very organically. There have been only 3 mentors, if you will, that I was placed with because of programs. Like with the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, I was placed with a mentor. The business plan competition that I entered into, I was placed with a mentor. But those programs are short-lived. And so what you do afterwards is where all the difference is and the value is brought. And those individuals are just people that I've never let out of my life. And it's a value exchange system. The currency with mentorship is value. And so if there is someone that I feel can bring an immense amount of value to my life, and I feel there's some way I can bring them value, I'm making the connection. And it's not necessarily walking up and saying, hey, I would love if you would mentor me. Sometimes it happens that way. Other times it's just very organic. I would love to learn more about what you do. May I buy you lunch? I would love to see your back end, your systems. There's someone that I am obsessed with right now. His name is Justin Siegel with Boxer Properties. And he is someone that I met with the Wolf Center 2 years down the road. You know, hadn't seen him. Never actually went to his office. And then one of my other mentors, who was not placed with me as a mentor, but I just saw that she is just a firecracker, who I just gradually became friends with, she said, you have to go see what he's doing. And so from there, I said, all right, well, Justin, Crystal says, I need to see what you're doing. And it's just that connection, constantly looking for surrounding yourself with people that can help you find value in other people. And that's how the world works. And so he opens his doors, tours us through his entire business and said, ask me anything. Oh, and let me connect you with this person. And just that's how it happens. It happens organically. And so my biggest tip to anyone seeking to be mentored is to be genuine. because real recognizes real. And so people genuinely want to help people if they're the right people that you need to be around. And they will connect you if you're being genuine and true to who you are. And the people that you actually want to be learning from can sniff out the fakeness in a minute. And so I've always been who I am and very real and honest with who I am, which is a hot mess. Lord bless this mess. Oh my gosh. And they get it and they love it. And we're doing this thing together. You're doing life together, you know?
I completely agree. I think that it definitely is true that you can sense when someone isn't being authentic. With that said, though, I think that for some people it is definitely more difficult for them to connect with their authentic self or to be genuine.
Absolutely.
And so if someone is having trouble with that, and also to connect that to something else about how you talked about this is something you were passionate about. Some people want to find something they're passionate about, but just to be able to live their best self and live their best life, but it's so hard for them sometimes. And I relate to that too. I think that I kind of landed in something after a while that works for me, but it took me like so long to navigate this path and, decide that I was going to do something that everybody was shocked about and everybody was surprised by. It happened naturally for me, but I think some people struggle with it. And is there anything that you suggest to help people connect with their genuine self, their passions, and to kind of find the right direction for them in life?
Yes. And I've been there. I've been there trying to live up to, this false reality that I painted for myself and the others around me. And it wasn't until I really got to know thyself and it was intentionally trying to address what was going on from within that I actually became successful on the outside. And working with children is one of the most, it's just raw. I'll say that. You know what I mean? They are just so innocently themselves and will say whatever's on their mind. And I feel like if you asked your 5-year-old self, what do you love doing? Like, they don't hesitate. I love Spider-Man. Okay, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. Why? I love saving people. I like the trucks. They are just so on point and innocently themselves. They don't think about it. And I think that something happens from childhood to adulthood, and that is called society and society's expectations and your parents and your cultural expectations that start to strip away that authentic you where it was innocent and pure and gritty. Kids are the grittiest little people you'll ever be around because they're not tainted yet. They are themselves. They know who they are at that age. And my biggest struggle with people is seeing that. And it's like you start off so whole and then layers get peeled and peeled and peeled until you're just left with this core and you're trying to find all of these things that were peeled off of you because of what everyone around you says that you should be doing. And that goes to the media, that goes to your culture, that goes to your parents, that the people that you're in a relationship with, the negativity around you, and you are just there trying to navigate something that you actually knew, So if I was to ask you what do you love spending your time doing, which is usually my first question when I meet someone, it's not typically, what do you do? It's what drives you? And then they'll lead with, I like to do this on the weekend, or I like to do that. All right, so how are you doing that during the week? How are you integrating that into your life? And they typically don't because of whatever circumstances or whatever their past says or whatever people around them have said. And that's where I hurt for people, because it is so important to understand that we only get one life and that tomorrow is not promised. And so if you're not living for you and you're not seeking to truly understand who you are, which is, I'm not there 100%. Every day I'm learning something new about myself. Oh, that made me kind of crazy. I wonder why. Let's get on at someone's couch therapy and figure that one out. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're not seeking intentionally to understand who you are, you will always live for someone else. And that someone else could be a spouse, that someone else could be your children, that could be a job, that could be your culture, that could be your parents. You will always live for someone or something else if you don't understand what's driving you and why you were created to be here.
That is so true. I agree with that completely.
So to your question, though, because I know I didn't answer it, of how did I understand what my passions were? It was getting to know who I was and stop creating businesses that were not in alignment with who I am supposed to be and the value I'm supposed to bring to this world. Creating a cell phone shop because someone else next to me was pulling in a certain amount every day and I wasn't. Creating a jewelry shop because someone else was successful at doing it. stay in your zone and align yourself with the things that you are supposed to do so that you can run your race appropriately and win at it. You can't run someone else's race. And so for me, it's been a journey, and it's why it's taken so long, but I wouldn't go backwards for anything, because if I didn't learn it then, I would learn it tomorrow, and I don't have time for that now. I've put in the work. And so my biggest thing would be just run your race. Not your sister's race, not your parents' race, run your race, and then figure out who you are every day.
I like that. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I swear I could talk to you forever about all this stuff, but I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, what you've learned along your path. And to wrap up, I'm Kelly McCormick with the Red Labs, the University of Houston Startup Accelerator, here with Desiree Worrell-Mosley, the founder and director of Sproutstart Academy. Thank you for being here,
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the C.T. Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcasts.